in the future, the only spoken language we have in common with all creatures above us, heaven, undersea, is telepathy. We are being told from parents, school teachers, friends, it's not possible, it's your imagination. Every single person on this planet have the abilities to be telepathic.
It's almost like there's a universal language that all of us have that you are then translating.
I do online sessions and people ask me, how do you understand Portuguese or Japanese? How is it possible? I think I understand energy. I understand emotions. So when the animals or the children are sending me an emotion, I know what this emotion is. It is not the animals who have the behavioral issues. If you want the very best for your animal, you need to fix yourself, honey.
Well, Ditte, thank you so much for joining me. Obviously, Telepathy Tapes has gone ultra viral, and that's how I found out about you. And we are trying our best to get you to come speak at Confluence this year. And unfortunately, with timing, weren't able to make it work. So we'll try our best to bring you out for a future edition of Confluence, because as we were talking offline, the event is definitely right up your alley. And it would just be incredible to have you. But thank you so much for being willing to sit down for this conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me and for the invitation.
Of course. I had to. Once I listened to you on Telepathy Tapes, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is something that my audience will definitely want to hear. And I'm very curious to ask a lot of questions related to it as well. Having done some episodes on Mindsight, having interviewed Melissa Jolly-Graves, who is a telepathic communicator for some of the beyond verbal autistic kids. And I don't know if I've shared this on any of my episodes. I actually was a little bit skeptical. So I believe in this stuff fundamentally, but I don't know who's legitimate versus who is faking. And I still have so much cognitive dissonance around it. Again, believing all of it, but still having skepticism, which I think is healthy. My mentor, Dr. Edith, kind of describes it as there's open-minded skepticism and then there's closed-minded skepticism. Closed-minded skepticism obviously is bad. You're never going to get someone like that to believe it, no matter what, the ultra-materialists. But open-minded skepticism when it comes to stuff like this, especially because we've been so conditioned to believe that we live in a purely physical world, is understandable. And I think it's healthy because there is many charlatans and things like that in the space. And we'll get into that during this episode. But I had a session on Zoom with one of the beyond verbal autistic kids with Melissa present. And some of the things that were revealed absolutely blew my mind. And the child who was like the telepathic child who Melissa was communicating for was also spelling some things out on the spelling board. And it blew my mind. It blew my wife's mind. We were absolutely blown away. And I know now that in my experience, like Melissa, for example, is totally legitimate. And then my studio manager here, after we did the in-person podcast, had some experience as well. So all that to say, I am of the firm belief that this is a very, very real phenomenon. And these other extrasensory phenomena are obviously very real as well. And then listening to you on Telepathy Tapes, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to talk with her. I have a pet dog who trying to connect with, trying to find ways to. But I'd love to start this conversation by just asking how you, when you realized you had this ability, and I believe you had said it started at a young age, which I'd imagine for most of us, we have these moments at a young age where we do have some of these abilities. And over time, they're conditioned out of us. Either our, friends and family members are telling us, oh, that's not real, that's cute, you're imagining these things. And they're conditioned out of us over time. But I just love to start with you sharing your story.
Oh, thank you. I think I was born with these abilities. And I think, as you just said, every single person on this planet have the abilities to be telepathic. And because what it requires is actually a luxurious level of empathy. And we are being told from parents, school teachers, friends, it's not possible, it's your imagination. But I think that I was privileged enough to get a very, very strong ability. But I didn't know that it was telepathic, because for me as a child growing up, I knew something was off. I knew I was different, because when I looked at my friends, I just knew, I don't think they can hear animals communicate to them. I don't think they see dead people. I don't think they sense other people in the living room or at social gatherings. So I felt so lonely with my abilities. And they just became stronger and stronger, whereas many other children closed them down at the age of 7.
I had an experience with my son that I've shared on my podcast before, where with our third child, we weren't trying to get pregnant. We just weren't careful, but we weren't careful for nearly 10 months. So there was no thought of being pregnant. And my eldest son walked up to us in the kitchen one day. My wife and I were making breakfast, and he just nonchalantly said, "Mom, you're pregnant." We're like, "What?" It's like, shrugged his shoulders and he was like, "You're pregnant." And we looked at each other like, "What?" And then a few days later, Mr. Period. And then a couple days after that, I was making breakfast in the kitchen again. And she looks over at me and goes, "What is that smell?" And I was like, "Oh,
He's pregnant.
You're pregnant." And that's an example right there that my son, he was 6 at the time. He just knew somehow he could sense it. Maybe he could see something in my wife's field. We asked him to this day, like, "How did you know?" And he was like, I don't really know how I knew. I just knew. And I just think that so many of us have these experiences, even as adults in our own lives, that we kind of chalk up to coincidence, or we assume like, oh, that's some synchronicity. And like, I think it goes beyond synchronicity. And it's that this is a fundamental aspect of reality. And it's us exercising a muscle, so to speak, that we all have, that we have forgotten that we have. Would you agree with that?
I would completely agree with you on that. And thank you for sharing this story with your son. What a gifted one you have.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Some of the things, we have a whole notes section on my phone of some of the things that he said from age 4 on about the nature of reality that we're just like, where is this coming from? It's really, really incredible.
Amazing. Usually when I meet children with these abilities or that level of abilities, usually they inherited from their parents. Just want to say that. So, because the generation after the next generation, they're just increasing their powers, basically.
Yeah. Especially as we recognize them and recognize that we have this muscle, so to speak. Yeah. So, I know you have worked with animals for quite some time. I'd love to just sort of ask an open-ended question to start with respect to animals, and have you share some of your favorite experiences working with animals with respect to telepathy.
If I have shared them?
No, just share some of your favorite experiences that you've had with animals.
Oh my God, because a lot of podcasters ask me this question, and it sounds ridiculous when I say every single client of mine is a special and magical session, because an animal isn't just an animal. And I think every single animal owners out there who believe in animal communication and telepathy knows my animal is special. It has its own personality, its own temper, its own emotions, patterns, behavioral patterns. But of course, because I've been doing this for 30 plus years, some of these stories stood out. And the situations where the animal stood out was because it was a huge learning impact in my life. I remember many, many years ago when I did phone calls when I was a telepath, a woman called me and told me that she had a cat, and it was a runaway cat. It ran away, and the job was get it back home. And I was pretty unexperienced back then with, runaway animals. And I told her, of course, I'm going to ask your cat where it is and try my best to get it to come back home. And I remember the cat told me, because that's one of the processes I always practice when I'm a telepath. I'm very structured as a telepath. I'm going after the personality profile to identify it is your cat and not the neighbor's cat or a random cat that came through here. And it was a sensitive princess. I have written books about them, and I have online lessons about this. But I told her it was a sensitive princess, and your cat is telling me that you have moved like 12 times within a very short amount of time here. I think it was like once a month. It was extremely how much she moved. And she told me that she forgot to unpack 3 boxes in the attic. It was being extremely detailed. The cat told me she was pregnant, and the cat told me that the woman forgot about the attention for the cat, and was worried that she wouldn't unpack the boxes as the princess she was, and forget about the cat completely when the baby was born. And I told the mom this, or the cat owner, and she was in awe. She was like, what? How can the cat know, that I'm pregnant and I forgot about the 3 boxes upstairs? And she promised me or she promised the cat to unbox it and remember the cat for 15 minutes every single time. It's very realistic for me as the animal owner. 15 minutes, come on, you can give the cat that respect and attention. And what was a surprise to me was the cat told me, all right, this was a Monday, I will come back home on Thursday. And I remember this because I thought, how can you know this? How you don't have a calendar. So I started to dive more into the knowledge of time and their understanding of time. I started to dive more into how can it be possible that a dog enters the window or, the staircase at 5 p.m. every single time because they just know when the owner is coming back, but they don't have a watch on them. So they have an experience of time. And that was one huge surprise for me. And a second one I would like to share, if it's okay.
Please. Yeah. I have some questions related to that one, but share the second one, then I'll ask.
All right. The second one was a pony, and a woman, a mother, called me and told me that the pony was bucking off the daughter. And this is a huge problem, of course, because it's dangerous. And I asked, air quote, asked the pony, why do you do that? And what was so shocking to me was that this pony, I remember his name, it was Alex. Not Alec, but Alex. He said, I'm bucking off the girl because I think she's not being very social at school and all she cares about is me. Pony, 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 Alex, Alex, Alex. So if I start bucking her off, maybe she'll become more interested in her kindred spirit, like other children. And I had to tell Alex, well, I think you have misunderstood this, that I completely understand your kindness, but you are actually hurting her and something dangerous might happen to her. All right, Alex said, then I won't buck her off. Great. Another week went by and the mom called me and told me, you changed the behavior. It stopped bucking her off. That was the first thing, the extent of knowledge. Alex knew what was going on when she was away from the stable in school. A month later, the mom called me and I forgot about Alex because I meet animals every single time on a regular basis. And when I'm telepathic, I think I'm being protected. And because I'm using part of my brain that makes it possible for me to practice telepathy, I seem to forget my sessions when I'm done. So I forgot about Alex. And the mom called me and said, do you remember me? And I was like, help me out a little bit here. Alex bucking off the dog. Oh, yeah, I remember. I told the mom. So what now? What can I help you with now? And she said, we have a huge problem, a behavioral issue here. He's running and fleeing out of the writing arena with her now. And I did a telepathic session again. And I told Alex, what are you doing? You promised me to take care of the girl. Why are you running off, taking off? And Alex said, what do you talk about? I promised you not to buck her off. I didn't promise you not to run. So it was so interesting for me as a therapist, a licensed therapist, that animals truly understand one, we would call it Gestalt in German, or, one problem. It's very compartmentalized. When I have to solve one problem at a time, I can't expect, well, problem solved. Alex is going to take care of her in any situation here. So that was tough learning.
If you frequently tune into the Way Forward podcast, don't skip this one. This is personal. If you've ever felt a shift from something that you've heard on this podcast, if it's helped you to see things more clearly, if it's helped you to break down a limiting belief system, if it's helped you just to generally question, or if it's helped you to feel less alone, then I'm asking you from my heart to help us keep going. We're not backed by corporate sponsors, venture capital money, or big donors, and that has been a deliberate choice. And we've said no to a lot of ad deals that weren't aligned because we don't want our mission to be shaped by products, brands, and agendas that we don't actually believe in. There are a few trusted brands and products that do support us, and we're incredibly grateful for that. But the reality is, this is primarily sustained by our listeners and viewers. Right now, this podcast has roughly 140,000 video and audio downloads a month, and it's continuing to grow. And only a small fraction of that actually help contribute financially. That's not a guilt trip, it's just the reality. We haven't said this directly enough, so here it is. If you'd like this podcast to continue, please help support us by becoming a member of thewayforward.com. If even a small fraction of listeners and viewers chose to support, we'd be able to easily sustain this. A membership at thewayforward.com is $99 annually, which amounts to about $8 a month. Think of it like a couple organic kombuchas at your local health food store, or maybe a fancy latte every month. And also think of it like this. In addition to ensuring that we can continue, you're actively supporting yourself in the process. Thewayforward.com is a private membership platform that allows you to instantly connect with aligned people, practitioners, farms, schools, restaurants, and more in your local area. And if the platform isn't for you, we've added a donation option as well. You'll find both of those in the show notes. If you've received something from the show, please consider giving back by becoming a member so we can continue to reach people, not just as a podcast, but as a movement for something good, true, and beautiful. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for walking this path with us. That's really incredible, though. I want to go back to Alex understanding that the girl was too focused on him and riding horses and riding ponies rather than focusing on spending time at school with her friends and things like this. Based on the session that you had with him, was this something that he just picked up intuitively in her field? Was he able to read her thoughts? Did he have some ability to, for lack of a better term, remote view and see what was happening with her at school? What do you imagine was the reason he understood that? Was she communicating that, talking about it? Was he able to read her thoughts when she's on, like, riding him? What are your thoughts there?
It's such a good question. I think for any animal I meet, they tap into our magnetic field. And in our magnetic field, it consists of a lot of different bodies, like ether body, mental body, emotional. And when they tap into that field, they tap into knowledge of all of it. Everything, all emotions, all thoughts we have had or we have. And that's can be somewhat difficult as a telepath to differ. Is it the past or the present or the future now? Because energetically, it's just coming through. So if this makes sense to you, I don't think that they differ between what am I allowed, air quote, allowed, what is private, what is, out in the open here, because you carry around all these emotions around your aura.
Right. That totally makes sense. I've done a lot of episodes on the human biofield, and I totally understand that it carries like all of us inside of it, an imprint like of our entire lives and possibly past lives and things like this as well. And another question I have related to that is, actually, I want to talk about the cat now too. I'm going to make sure I don't skip over this. Do you think that this cat had an understanding to differentiate between a Monday and Thursday, because animals just have a natural ability to tap into their circadian rhythm because they're naturally aligned with the sun and the moon cycles and the stars, et cetera, et cetera?
I asked the cat, how do you know this? And she said, I'm looking up in the sky as you would if you didn't have whatever you're using. And I understand one day went by, another day went by, and I'm sending you this so that you understand that four sundowners is related to Thursday in your mind. And then it occurred to me, okay, so maybe someone is helping me telepathically to understand this, because a lot of people ask me a very interesting question, because I'm from Denmark. I have worked in the entire world. And this is a possibility as well, because I do online sessions, and people ask me, how do you understand Portuguese or Japanese, or, how is it possible? And it's such an interesting question, because I think I understand energy. I think it is global. I understand emotions. When the animals or the children are sending me an emotion, I know what this emotion is. I know this is love or sorrow or angst or fear, et cetera, et cetera. And then I translate it.
Yeah. So it's almost like there's a universal language that all of us have that you are then translating into either English or Danish.
Yes. And that's why, and this might sound ridiculous, but...
Not on this podcast. Whatever you say here is not going to sound ridiculous, I promise you.
Okay, thank you. Because people might say, you need a silver paper hat on or something.
No, not here.
All right. Some days I have these thoughts about, people are super interested in UFOs and, life on other planets. How can we communicate them? How can we, exploit their planets or, and I think that there are things going on we don't see with the eyes right now. And I know for sure that in the future, the only spoken language we have in common with all creatures above us, heaven, undersea, is telepathy.
Yeah. Have you heard of the book Mutant Messages from Down Under?
No.
So this lady, I forget her name, and there's been a lot of controversy surrounding the book. She's a Westerner who claims to have spent a lot of time with the Aboriginal people of Australia, just living amongst them, walking amongst them. They were a nomadic people that she was with. And she noticed that they didn't talk much, but they all seemed to just know what to do and where to go as they were, wondering about hunting or whatever they were doing. And she asked them, and they essentially relayed that we don't need to communicate with words because we can all communicate with our minds. The reason so many of you Westerners have lost this ability is because you all lie to each other.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right.
So true. Because telepathically, you can't lie.
You can't.
You can't lie. And that's the thing, people are skeptic as well. People are afraid of it because a lot of people who are skeptic around me, the first sentence they ask me is, but can you read my mind? And I'm like, what do you cover? What do you have to hide? Since that's the first question you have for a telepath.
It's almost like they don't want it to be true because then they would have to be vulnerable with all of their thoughts, all of the things, all of the emotions, all the things they've done to other people, all the things that have been done to them. And I think that the way society is right now, a lot of people are starting to realize that, like the need to be fully authentic and vulnerable. And at the same time, for so many people, that can be incredibly confronting and scary. And I think that, ironically, that is the medicine that we need in order to come back into this deeper, more inherent connection that we all have, is being vulnerable in that way, is revealing all parts of you.
Most definitely. And that's why we have the paradigm shift. People are ready for this paradigm shift. We are already in it. We can't go back. We can't go back.
Yeah. I think people are trying to resist in every way they can, but there is no going back. There is no going back at all.
Just give in, people. Just give in.
Just give in. So I have a question regarding just like pets in general. Have you read the book series, The Law of One, by chance, or ever heard of it?
No, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. There's no expectation for you to know any of this stuff. But okay. The reason I bring this up is because the Law of One basically talks about how the journey of the soul is to go through different densities of consciousness. Like we start as like rock, mineral, and then after multiple lifetimes there, then we move on to more animal life, which is what they call second density. And as we move from second density to third density in the journey of souls, if this is true, oftentimes we become pets before we're about to become embodied in a human being's vessel in a subsequent life after that. And the reason this material, the entity that's being channeled is called Ra, describes that is because as animals, after a few lifetimes of being an animal in the wild, is starting to come into more self-awareness, then it becomes a pet because human beings impress upon that animal, whether intentionally or not, like an individuation. If that makes sense. Like you be like, and that's where you see, for example, with wolves in the wild, not that they don't have personality, I'd imagine they do. And this is what I want to ask you, but a dog clearly has like a very distinct personality, emotions. Like our dog, if we leave him outside the door while we're all in the playroom with our kids, he kind of goes like he's frustrated with us, like open the door, let me in. So in your experience, I guess the first question is, have you worked with wild animals before telepathically?
I have.
And this is a pretty general question. Is there any characteristic difference between, say, a dog that is a pet versus a wild dog of some sorts?
Yes, I think that what they both have in common, being wild or domesticated, air quote domesticated, is basically that they want to be part of a collective or a pack to feel safe. That is the raw instinct in all of us. The difference is that when we separate a domesticated dog into a family, they relate to the human beings first, or instead, And when I meet a lot of dogs that people took into their homes during COVID, they lack social skills amongst other dogs. They feel aggressions towards other dog or become more angst in the meeting with other dogs because they're sensitive. They can't read it. They can't read the signals. So it's so interesting to me as the outsider. What are we doing right now with these animals? And are we keeping them to feel safe for our sake? Or is this a good thing or a bad thing? Also in the equine industry, it's a huge debate right now. Is it actually okay? Is it horse welfare to be sitting on a horse? It opens a different debate. And I think basically that we need one another. The animals need us to develop into their personal growth because they can through us as human beings. And we definitely need them to be more mindful and in the now. That's why I think people love animals.
That's a good question, though, is like, I know a lot of animal rights activists don't like equestrian or like dog shows or things like this. And a lot of them don't even want people to own pets, right? In general, working with animals telepathically, what is the impression that you get from them? I know it's going to be unique depending on the animal, I'd imagine, and how they're treated by their owners. But in general, how do animals take being a pet or like being a horse that's just used for equestrian purposes and things like this?
It depends on whether or not they're being understood. And that's why in the very beginning of my work, I saw a pattern and a behavioral pattern with all these animals I met. I saw the personality, and behind the personality was an underlying behavioral pattern. So in the future, I knew to better teach other people in air quote behavioral issues, because trust me on this one, it is not the animals who have the behavioral issues. They have a behavior that can be somewhat problematic for the human beings when not being understood. But in their mind, they don't think about aggressions towards other dogs. Do I have aggression? I don't think about it because it's gone. It's, it was only in the second the nervous system reacted because of a shock or trauma or a bad experience, et cetera, et cetera. So when I created these personality profiles called the playful one, the sensitive one, the prince or the princess, the king or the queen, the rigid, lazy one, it's more like a self-defense mechanism, and the shock traumatized one, 6 profiles. An animal can be a mix of these different profiles. But of course, if I meet a playful horse, I just met one today, actually. It was a rider who purchased a horse, a dressage horse from Netherlands, and bought it and flew it into New York. And it hated dressage. And I told him, it's because you forgot about playing with it. You don't play when you train it. And play is in throw a ball, throw a stick after a horse. It is something that needs to come within. It is something where you lose your ambitions and your ego, and you remember the fun of why did I love horses? That's play. Whereas the prince or the princess, you can almost tell on my energy or the sound of, I'm beautiful. When I tell a gelding, wow, you're a beautiful boy, he will say, I know. Don't you think? I look at my ass. I love myself. That's the type of horses that we can use for competitions because they are show-offs. But if they don't have that personality, I wouldn't recommend people to do that. And if we have, as an example, opposed to the playful one, can they compete? Yes, they can, but it requires a hell of a lot of work from the rider to make it really fun to enter a competition. Does this make sense to you?
No, this totally makes sense.
For generations, our ancestors lived in harmony with nature, thriving on a nose-to-tail approach to nourishment. Organ meats, often called nature's multivitamin, were a staple, providing essential nutrients that supported energy, brain function, skin, gut health, and reproductive vitality. Yet today, these deeply nourishing foods are largely missing from modern diets, leaving many of us unknowingly depleted. Let's be real though, most of us aren't eating organ meats the way our ancestors did. Whether it's the taste, texture, or simply a shift away from traditional foods, we've lost touch with this vital source of nourishment. And that's where Paleo Valley's grass-fed organ complex comes in. It's an easy way to reconnect with ancestral wisdom and replenish the nutrients we're meant to thrive on. Sourced from grass-fed cows on small regenerative farms in the US, this blend includes liver, heart, and kidney, freeze-dried to preserve their full nutritional integrity. No fillers, no synthetic processing, just pure, bioavailable nourishment. Those who incorporate the grass-fed organ complex notice more energy, balanced moods, and renewed vitality, sometimes within days. If this speaks to you, you can explore more by visiting the show notes or heading to paleovalley.com/thewayforward. And in this case, forward is fully spelled out. So paleovalley.com/theway, FORWARD, and a 15% discount will be automatically applied at checkout.
What comes up for me, I'll just give an example, and this is going to seem like totally unrelated, but with my kids, for example, if I start feeling a little bit of shame because I've been working too much, like, oh my gosh, I need to play with my kids more, I have to like authentically get into a playful mode if my kids are really going to feel seen and validated. Versus like, oh, checking the box of like, oh, I haven't played with my kids, but let me go play with them for 20 minutes. Likewise, like my wife and I do a pretty good job. If we're feeling frustrated internally, we don't try to fake a smile with our kids like, oh, like we're happy. We let our kids know like, hey, we're feeling frustrated. This is why we feel frustrated, because emotionally we know that our kids can feel us. And if they feel us and it's different than what we are displaying, there's going to be some sort of cognitive dissonance on their part where they stop trusting what they intuitively feel. So I'd imagine it's the same way with animals. Like, with my dog, because I definitely experienced this. I'm guilty of it, where I'm like, okay, I haven't given my dog Winnie enough attention today. Well, okay, I'll just go play with him with the ball for a little bit. And it's more of like, oh, I got to go do this, rather than like, no, I love my dog. We got the dog for a reason. I want to get into a playful mode with my dog and actually play with him. Is that right? Like they can feel when we're not being authentic and we're just checking the box to play with them if they're the more playful type.
Completely concur on this one, because as we talked about prior, you can't lie. Energy can't lie. They know. And the animals will know. If you don't mean it, they don't want to accept it. When I was in Africa, as an example, and I asked telepathically animals, what about us as human beings? Their answer was, what about you as human beings? We don't care. We don't care about you. When I asked dolphins, whales, elephants, lions, many sorts of different animals in the Maldives, Africa, different various countries I've been in, they accept our presence. It is like, you do yours, we do ours, okay? And we accept your being here because it is our world, our ocean, our fields. But you don't have to intervene in my field. This is our space. You don't have to blend in here. Just be you. And that was pretty provoking to me because what I came across was, why is this so frustrating for me? Oh, they don't need my help. I'm not needed. Wow. What about my self-worth here? So it actually made me think about, what is it I'm doing here? And when I meet, with these personality profiles I just talked about prior, with playful, sensitive, I understand, regarding the book you mentioned earlier, I understand that when one animal is equally balanced in every single personality profile, just as a human being would be equally balanced in a playful side, a sensitive, emotional side, a dominant, self-worthy side, a leadership side, being healed in their shock and traumas, and always motivated and never rigid or lazy, then we're no longer human beings. We become guardian teams or angels or something else, So I think that the spirit strives for balance, and it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. But when I meet these animals who are as close as they get to the balanced, the complete personality profiles of all of them, I call them the masters, because then in that second, I will meet an animal who would look at me like, what are you doing? Why do we have to communicate? I don't need you. You are here, but can't you just be you and I'll be me? That is so frustrating for me as a doer or a fixer or, the animal communicator. I need to be important here on the field, and I would look like a complete moron out there because they don't need my help.
That brings up a lot of questions like, regarding the human beings collectively, like our role on the earth. Because I've always looked at us as the stewards of the planet, like we're the bridge between I don't know, like the metaphysical and the physical. And maybe that's incorrect. I don't know. It's like if these animals that are the more master animals are looking at us like, well, I don't need you. I don't have any need for you at all. Why are you communicating with me? It's like, I don't know what came up for you on like our role as a species, so to speak, on this earth. What have you learned from the animals, or what have you thought about with respect to that?
I thought how stupid we are as a species, because when I look at animals and the width of their intelligence, their emotional intelligence, they are superior to all of us. Because how do we measure intelligence in dolphins? How do we measure intelligence when it comes to elephants, which are the two most intellectual species in the animal world? In my opinion, we measure it by their understanding of the collective. An elephant, no, one of my friends passed, so I need to walk miles back and mourn over this friend. How could they know? Because they just received telepathically, one of my friends I'm connected with is suffering here or have problems. The same thing goes for the sonar system with the dolphins. We measure it because they are helping other of their kinds, right? So when I look at, if this is intelligent, what are we as human beings? We never help one another besides from, I'm going to give you something if you return something back to me. That's pretty selfish, isn't it? And that must be unintelligent. So that's my thoughts on human species.
Oh man, that's not a good outlook. Hopefully we're changing that by having conversations like this. Dang. I mean, I get that though. It'd be hard not to. I want to share this for some like comedic relief, and maybe we'll show some other sides of dolphins. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And this could be totally made up. I'm going to preface this by saying I haven't watched this specific video yet, but supposedly this guy in Florida was seen on the beach looking totally disoriented and was drawing all these crazy blueprints for some sort of, it almost looked like an apartment complex in the sand. And then he was brought into the police station, and he said that he was abducted or kidnapped rather by dolphins. He was swimming off the coast of Florida, and these dolphins surrounded him. And the next thing he knows, he's underwater, and they're like forcing him to make this dolphin sort of like apartment complex. And then there's this like mob boss dolphin named Gerald who is communicating with him telepathically. And what's crazy is they did a breathalyzer on him. He'd had 0 alcohol in his system. They tested him for a variety of drugs. He had no drugs in his system. He's an MIT graduate, and he studied like the creation of underwater submersible objects or something like that. So he's like a high-level engineer. I'm going to play this video and I just want to hear what you have to say about it. Hold on. Okay.
Florida man kidnapped by dolphins. A Lee County man was found on a beach Monday morning, soaking wet, dehydrated, and drawing diagrams in the sand. His explanation? Dolphins. He says a pod of dolphins dragged him 40 feet underwater and forced him to spend 3 days building what they described as cities, condos, and underwater structures. Their leader, a dolphin named Gerald, somehow kept him breathing the whole time. When the job was done, they sent him back to the surface with a message. They'll be back for phase 2. Here is where it gets strange. Doctors found no head injury, no mental confusion, but they did find a seawater and marine particles deep in his lungs, consistent with long submersions without the damage that should come with it. Oh, and the man has a master's degree in aerospace engineering and experience in deep sea technology. The dolphin Gerald apparently did his research. Authorities haven't ruled out anything just yet, and phase 2 has not been announced.
So this guy claimed that he was kidnapped by dolphins. I don't know, maybe you could connect with the dolphins in that area off the coast of Florida and figure out like what exactly happened. It is pretty wild because supposedly, if this story is true, which I have no clue, they found particles in his lungs that are consistent with being deep within the ocean off the coast. And then they asked him, how is it that you were underwater the entire time? And he said that the dolphins used some sort of air bubble mechanism where they would go to the surface and bring air out and like blow it into his face. So he always had a constant air bubble around him. I have no idea. I just thought that was pretty funny. But no need to comment on that unless you want to. I would love to just like go a little bit deeper on the intelligence of dolphins. And have you connected with dolphins?
Yeah.
Would they kidnap someone and force them to build condos off the coast of Florida?
I'm pretty skeptical about this story, but I also know people have been skeptical about my stories as well. So I'm being skeptically open to this story. But I think what is more important is, what is his mission? What is the purpose of being abducted by the dolphins? Because if they kidnap him, they must have done that for a reason to create something bigger or better. So what was the mission?
Yeah.
Do you know that?
Yeah, I get what you mean. I have no idea what the mission was. They said that he told the authorities that he was there because they knew that he understood underwater technologies and like knew how to build things, that they brought him down there to build some sort of dolphin city or something.
But I will believe him when he starts to build it, then, I can see it in reality. Was that a brilliant stunt? Then I will believe him. But if this just a fun tangent of, I'm being abducted by dolphins, it's just a funny story.
Right, exactly. And it probably is, but I thought it would be funny to show you that. With that, when you connect with animals, how do they typically respond? Like when they understand that you can understand them?
It depends on, again, the personality profile and the relationship with their human beings. And if their human beings are already telepathic with them, they completely understand what I'm doing. But if it's the first time they experience a human being being telepathic, and I can't explain to you how that is or how that works for me as a telepath, some of them wonder, why are you communicating like this? This is fun. Or some of them become skeptical, like, I'm not used to it. Again, it varies on, are they sensitive? Are they playful and open-minded? Do they have shocks and traumas in regard to human beings? So it varies a lot.
Do you have to ask their permission before you do it?
I always ask permission.
Yeah.
Always ask for permission. I always say, hi, I'm Ditte. I'm an animal communicator. Would you like to communicate with me? 50% are saying, yes, let's do it. And the other half is saying, who are you? What do you want to communicate with me about? Just as human beings would.
Yeah. That's pretty incredible. Have you ever had a pet just say, no, I don't want to communicate?
Yeah. And then I ask them, and what is the reason for that? And the answer will be 99% of the time, I don't know you. You are a stranger. And then I'm going to ask them, what do you need when I'm a stranger? And the animal might say, a little structure here or a little mental preparation here. And then we're already communicating.
Yeah, you're already in the process of communicating there. Most of our modern lives are spent completely disconnected from the natural world. Artificial light environments, concrete, rubber soles on our feet, non-native EMFs everywhere. We have totally immersed ourselves in a completely unnatural world. Getting outside and putting your feet on the earth is actually vitally important for our health. And that's why I've worn Earth Runners for years, especially when I'm out in nature, whether I'm on a trail, hiking, fly fishing, camping, or just spending time outside at an event like Confluence with the earth beneath my feet. Earth Runners are minimalist sandals that are especially great when you're out in a natural environment. They have a wide toe box and a flexible sole that lets your feet spread, grip, and move naturally on uneven terrain, whether it's trails, grass, sand, or dirt. Instead of restricting your feet the way most modern footwear does, they allow your feet to engage naturally with the ground and move the way they were designed to do in a natural setting. What also makes Earth Runners unique is their conductive grounding design, which allows your body to reconnect with the Earth's natural negative charge while you walk. And as I've discussed on a variety of podcast episodes, negative charge is essential for your body's energy production. If you value getting outside, reconnecting with nature, and moving in a way that your body was designed to move while on natural surfaces, check them out. Head to earthrunners.com or just head to the show notes and use code FORWARD10 at checkout for 10% off. Again, that's FWRD10 for 10% off your order. If you're ready to rewild your health and walk in deeper alignment with nature, then check out Earth Runners and feel the difference from the ground up. That's so interesting, especially because so many people tend to think that animals don't have these complex personalities and these complex language skills. Like, I don't know. That is just so wild to me. It almost seems like they are just as, if not more intelligent than us in many ways. They are, because they are in their senses all the time. And being able to be telepathic, in my experience, requires you are open with all 5 senses. Then you activate number 6. We know that as the clair, the clairs.
And then you can activate number 7. And here comes telepathy. But you need to be extremely open and in tune with the other 5 senses, which animals are all the time.
It's an interesting question. So like when you say the other 5 senses, like what if someone has incredibly bad eyesight issues? Is it going to be harder for them to connect with the other abilities? Because, for example, I know someone who does like adult blindfold vision, like the mind sight, and they don't have sight at all. And it's almost like they developed that ability as an adaptation in a way where they can see without their eyes. They can call out colors consistently and things like this. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
My son, Philip, he was born blind, and I refused to accept he was blind because I just knew, like your son told you're pregnant and your wife is pregnant. And I knew it isn't true. I can train his optical nerves, and he has partial sight today. He's 18 years old now. And because he has that blindness and had that for many years, of course, he increased the other abilities. So he's even more telepathic than I am, even more clairvoyant than I am. Yeah. And I think that when we have all 5 senses intact us as human beings, it becomes actually a bit more difficult for us to be focused on 5 senses and 6 and 7. Whereas if you only have 4 senses, it is easier to activate number 6 and number 7.
Have you heard of I'm going to keep asking you questions, and if you don't know.
No.
Well, okay, I'll just share.
I never read it.
The Kogi people in Colombia, they identify what will be their village shamans at a young age. I don't know the exact process that they do that. But what they do when they identify what's called their mamos, which is what are to be their village shamans as they get older, they take them into caves at a young age and raise them primarily in caves, only exposing them to daylight a little bit at a time. I believe only during sunrise and sunset. And other than that, they're training them in caves because, from my understanding, they're knocking out their sense of sight, their actual physical sense of sight, so that it helps cultivate and stimulate these deeper senses, these extrasensory senses that we have. So I wonder if it's like that same phenomenon. I had a conversation with Diane Hennessy Powell, and are you familiar with Veda Austin?
Heard the name, but not.
She's the lady who can basically show that water has its own language and communicate.
Yeah.
I figured you'd heard her at least. We got one. You got one that you've heard. Yes. I can't wait to send all these to you because it's just going to,
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And she describes how oftentimes some of the nonverbal autistic kids have cultivated this ability essentially because the physical body has been inundated with so much poisoning and toxicity. So as a response, it's like the soul can't fully incarnate into the physical body. So the soul's metaphysical properties are innately online, which is why they have this telepathic ability. Now, obviously with animals, it's a little bit different. So my question is, do all animals have this ability? And if they do have this ability, how come so many of us do not have this ability? Or we do, but we just have been conditioned away from it? Because we're animals too, at our core, at some level.
Exactly. We're mammals. Yeah. I think all animals have the abilities of being nonverbal, reading each other's signals, sensing each other from miles away, and not by using their track sense, by just I sense them. They're so intelligent. And of course, I believe that us as human beings have the same possibility, but we forget about training that muscle in the brain. And when I'm teaching, and I'm a teacher, and I've been practicing my methods for years, for thousands of students all over the world. And after 5 minutes, every single person on my class can practice telepathy, but becoming really good at health concerns, becoming really spot on at solving behavioral issues, it takes a bit longer. The first practice I pass on to my student is a closed envelope to blindfold them again to remove the eyesight. So it actually makes perfect sense to me with the cages and not the caves and removing the eyesight because it keeps you extremely focused, and you have to trust your intuition more than the physical eye.
Yeah. When my son took this class called Luminous Children Blindfold Vision, that's taught by my friend Dr. Edith Ubuntu Chan, what was so amazing to me is that Dr. Edith actually encourages the children to get it wrong the first few times. She has them blindfolded, and we hold up colors, just 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper in front of the kids, holding up different colored sheets of paper. And they're guessing, getting it wrong. And then when they finally get it right, we sort of pause them and say, okay, how did that feel in your body to know versus to guess? And they go on some more, guess, get it wrong, get it right again. Okay, pay attention to how that feels in your body. How does it feel to know versus just to guess? And then the more they go on, the more they're paying attention to that inner knowing. And then the more they start getting them right repetitively to where they're getting 25 plus. Some of the kids that she's taught are getting it right behind their head consistently. Some of them are remote viewing into other rooms, getting it correct. Is this like the same general principle with how you help cultivate telepathy in other people?
I help cultivate it in the same way where I allow, air quote, allow people to be wrong, because what is required is to trust yourself and trust your intuition. So I think it's brilliant work you just mentioned here. I think that when people are expecting, and I see that in all my master classes, people expect when they get it right the first time, I'm telepathic, and then they raise the bar and raise the bar and raise the bar, and of course they're gonna fail. Eventually, they're gonna fail at one point, and the whole process is primarily to make them trust their own intuition and trust in their own abilities first, because telepathy, that's the easy one.
That's the easy one.
That's the easy one. Receiving stuff is easy. Removing the static in your brain, like, was this fantasy? Was this a projection? Did I see this or do I know this? That makes the static. That is the reason for people are failing telepathically. But receiving, either in the three modalities I work with, is images, thoughts, or emotions. That's the easy one.
Images, thoughts, and emotions. Is it different for you each time? Like, is there sometimes that it comes in as more of an image versus a thought? Like, what is the characteristic of it when you're engaging in telepathy with these animals?
It varies from the individual animal I communicate with, but when it comes to the past, it is often a picture. And what people have to understand, like I told you with Alex, the pony, one problem, it was compartmentalized. So bucking off the girl wasn't the same thing as fleeing out of the riding arena. And when I understood that, I became faster and stronger, because I understood I have to produce one frame. So one communication is frame by frame by frame. So to the animal owner, I make it sound like a fluent conversation, but to me as the telepath, I'm producing a hell of a lot of frames to create the air quote movie. And I'm trying my best to explain this to animal owners when I'm telepathic, because when I'm communicating with their, let's say, dog with aggressions with other dogs, they might interrupt me and tell me, because they get excited, oh, what about the car? Ask my dog about the car. And I'm in the middle of other dogs. So I have to explain to them, it's a way different frame. It's a way different situation.
That is so interesting. Yeah, that totally makes sense. You're like communicating via images, and if you're in the middle of one image, you have to stay with that image to project out to the god.
Finish it to understand it. And that's why I'm allowed to say, I think that's why I have great results in my work. And that's why I can make a living out of it for 30 plus years now, because I change behaviors, because I'm spot on, because I can tell whatever they are sick with. I'm not the veterinarian. I'm not an expert in food, diet, et cetera, but I trust in my abilities because I do a thorough job in the frame.
In the frame, right. You'd mentioned on another podcast that I'd heard you on that at some point in Denmark, you actually had your own office working alongside a chiropractor, a veterinarian, and then I think someone else. and you were all sort of working with each other, helping each other out. If it was more of like a mental, psycho-spiritual, emotional issue, they would refer the animal and the owner to you so you could work it out. If it was like some biomechanical issue, they would go to the chiropractor, and then that fell apart. What was it, because of skepticism, or like what was the reason that so many veterinarians, if I remember correctly, were attacking you related to this?
It was because of jealousy, I guess, and money. A lot of veterinarians lost a lot of clients on this behalf because we were super popular. It was 4 super hospitals. It was veterinarian clinics and hospitals in Denmark, and they lost clients, the other veterinarians, and they became furious about it. So they contacted their organization and their union and told them to close it down. And it's such a shame they closed it down. And I'm still working my beep off here to keep building the bridge between the vets and the more holistical part of the world, because we need each other. I will not put down an animal and they cannot figure out a behavioral issue. So we'd rather give the clients, the 4 and the 2-legged, a faster and more precise result by connecting and communicating better.
Wow. Yeah.
Most healthcare today operates on an outdated mechanistic model, treating the body like a battlefield rather than a self-healing system. You wait months for an appointment only to receive a rush diagnosis that labels you rather than truly understanding your unique health. Even in holistic health, many practitioners rely on endless lab tests and supplement protocols, addressing symptoms instead of the root cause. And the result? Another prescription or supplement regimen that merely suppresses or masks symptoms rather than facilitating true healing, whether the imbalance was physical, emotional, energetic, or a mix of all 3. And that's why Dr. Tom Cowan co-founded the New Biology Clinic, to offer something radically different. As one of the most respected natural health doctors in the world, Dr. Cowan has spent decades challenging conventional medicine and advancing a deeper understanding of human biology, water, and natural health. His work isn't just about rejecting the mainstream, it's about offering a more truthful, biologically coherent approach for healing. The New Biology Clinic recognizes that health isn't about fighting disease, it's about restoring balance. You're not a diagnosis, you're an individual with a unique story, and healing should honor that. With virtual consultations available worldwide, the clinic offers a flat-rate monthly membership that gives you direct access to practitioners who take the time to actually listen. Members also get exclusive health live streams, a resource library, and live sessions covering everything from biofield tuning and breathwork to movement and meditation, all designed to support whole body healing. And if you're not ready for a membership, you can book a one-time appointment, sign up for an enrichment-only membership for the healing modalities alone, or schedule a free connection session with one of the care team members to see how the New Biology Clinic can help in your specific situation. This isn't about keeping you dependent on doctors. It's about making you sovereign over your health. Head to newbiologyclinic.com and use code THEWAYFORWARD, and that's spelled The Way, FORWARD, for $50 off account activation, or just head to the show notes for more info. If you're a member of The Way Forward, email hello@thewayforward.com for $150 off. Your body already knows how to heal, and New Biology Clinic helps you remember.
I think it's like we're at this time where so many of us are realizing the problems with so many mainstream institutions. I feel like the timing is right now for the world to, understand your work and the importance of your work, that this is not just some fringe woo-woo thing, that this is an innate part of all living beings that we have completely overlooked. And it has great implications for not only the nature of, like how we navigate life, but for our health and for the nature of reality itself. And it's like, this is literally a fundamental aspect of health, is what we're tapping into.
It is. And it is so interesting that you mentioned this, because it has my focus that first and foremost, animals know what they need when they become sick, and they know in details what caused their diseases. And that's why I fight a lot and debate a lot with many veterinarians, because they are handling the symptoms. I find the root cause. And of course, it's frustrating for the veterinarian when I'm entering the clinic and I didn't take the 5 years education as the vet and telling them, I'm sorry, honey, but you're treating the wrong leg, And I am so experienced, and I trust my intuition, and I trust whoever is helping me. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a possibility for me to have this job because I didn't want this job. So I have to trust what is being given to me when I'm so pure-hearted during my sessions. So I disagree with the veterinarians. And I have taken so much beating from vets because I disagree with them. And in 99% of the times, they have to tell me, I'm sorry, we were wrong. You're right. And I'm like, it's not important who's right here. It's a matter of treat the animals fast. Save it now.
Well, then you add on the layers of, I would imagine, given the problems with allopathic medicine, right, that when it comes to veterinary care, they're coming from a purely biochemical symptom suppression allopathic model as well. So I'd imagine a lot of the times you're dealing with things where it's like, no, this dog is just really, 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 really sad, or it has a lot of grief, or the owner's grief was projected onto the dog. And that's why the dog is dealing with these lung issues or whatever it's dealing with. And they're coming at it from like, no, it's just related to this quote unquote viral infection that the dog has. We just need to get it, this treatment to suppress the symptoms. Do you find that a lot of the times the ailments that the animals are dealing with, especially the domesticated ones, are related to emotions or even their owner's emotions?
100% of the times because of the mirroring neurons between them. So equal attracts equal. We know we have the magnetic field. We know, and this is a huge debate. Why do we attract what we attract? Because we contain it, right, in our physical body, and we're sending it out. So if we want to change the future or what we attract, we have to change the container or whatever we feel, think, etc. And these animals are 100% dependent on the collective and being safe and being part of the pack. Of course, they adapt to us as human beings. So they take in our sorrows. I haven't met a dog owner, as an example, yet, who didn't tell me I was crying, or the dog told me my dog mom is crying. She suffers from anxiety or social angst. I'm laying my paw in her knee, or I'm licking the tears from her, cheek, etc., etc. And it's such a teared up story, and the human beings are being so seen, and this is such a heartfelt story. But my job as a telepath and the licensed therapist is also to make people discover, but if you want the very best for your animal, you need to fix yourself, honey.
What's so difficult about that, because I've come to the same conclusion with respect to like the various diseases that we have as human beings, is that there is almost in every case, I could almost say exclusively an underlying emotional or psychospiritual component to it, is that you can no longer blame things outside of you for getting sick. Like that can no longer happen. And it requires so much self-ownership. And this is another layer where it's like, I've come to that understanding with our kids, is that our kids mirror us, right? And that oftentimes they're getting sick because we're sick and something is resonating in our field and just projecting onto them in many ways. Not all the time. I mean, obviously they're their own beings, but a lot of the times. But I've always had the intuitive hunch that with pets, they get sick when they're domesticated. Yes, there's diet that absolutely matters. Feeding our pets ultra processed foods and things like this, not letting them outside enough. There's so many things. But because we're not addressing the things inside of us, and then they're being projected onto our pets.
Yes, 100%. And we know this for a fact with women. We know that if you put 100 women into the same room or the same office, their menstrual cycle starts to synchronize. Because of what? So the same thing goes for the animal and our children. So it's proven.
It is. I would agree with that. I would totally agree. Okay, I'm going to ask a few more questions. And for those who are listening and watching, we're going to do a membership Q&A with Ditte. Did I say that already? I'm so self-conscious about that. Ditte at some point in May. So just check the show notes for that. And thank you so much for doing that. Like I so appreciate this. Yeah, I'm so looking forward to it because I know our members are going to have some incredible questions for you. What in general would you say is something that most pets would like to communicate to their owners?
It varies a lot. Again, if it's the cats, they're more occupied with themselves, to be honest. So it's a matter of do they feel seen and understood? whereas the dogs are very, very occupied with every single family members. Are they okay? I pick up on this one from your daughter, or this from the one son and from the other son. They understand, and they differ between all the two-leggeds in the houses. With the horses, these are very interesting to me, even though I'm not a rider, I don't have a horse, but I've been working with equestrians for many, many years on all sorts of level to the Olympic level. These are the only animals we're sitting on. So we are not only passing on our emotions and our energy to them, we are also passing on our crookedness, our emotion, our physical problems and tensions to them. So they're very occupied with that connection.
That is so interesting. So you start seeing physical ailments in the horses that are specific and related to that which is in the human that is riding them sometimes?
100%. And to your listeners out there, if you have a horse, you will know, I do hope you know this, that your strong side is your horse's strong side, and your weak side is your horse's weak side.
That is so fascinating. Oh my gosh. Wow.
It was news to you.
I mean, it makes sense though. It makes sense. It's like not surprising to me. It's just, it's to have it validated, because I've had these intuitive hunches. Like, again, it goes back to how we are so conditioned to believe we live in a physical realm. I mean, that's why my logo, you can't really see it this well, but it's a field. It's like the top view of the human biofield. That's what it is, the Taurus yantra. And it's like, that's what I'm constantly thinking about, is how much communication is happening that most of us have been conditioned to believe we don't have, that is occurring at all times between all living things.
We impact one another, and we hear one coach after the other mentioning, remember or be focused on who's your peers and who you spend time with, et cetera, et cetera. It's no fun. It's true, and I just mentioned an example like the menstrual cycles with 100 women. I could mention any horse owner would know that half a ton of an animal will react if a fly is sitting on it. A fly.
Yeah. It's incredible. Okay. I want to ask a few more questions. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I love your questions.
Okay. I hope they're not like so chaotic and all over the place. It's just like, when you say things, it stimulates something inside my head, and my brain's going a million different directions. I'm like, oh my gosh, that relates to this, that relates to that. Yeah.
It's a huge topic.
It is. It is a huge topic. So I have a question on reincarnation specifically. Have you gotten the sense from working with animals that reincarnation is a real phenomenon?
Yes. And not only with animals, also as a clairvoyant and a psychic as well. And a lot of animals have had previous lives with their human beings. And it's so interesting that people here, when they lose an animal, let's say an example, a dog, it's the most devastating grief ever on this planet. And we don't talk nearly enough about the seriosity of when we lose animals, because people who don't have animals laugh about it. They don't take it that seriously, but it's actually true grief. And a lot of human beings ask me, so do you think my animal have time enough to come down on earth to me again in this lifetime? Of course. And what they seem to not understand yet, and I don't hold the entire truth. This is only based on many conversations with deceased animals and live animals, which I've also helped just before they being euthanized.
So you're like a death doula for animals too, sometimes.
Oh yeah. Very emotional, very and such an honor being part of it. It was so emotionally hard to begin with. Now I'm getting more used to it over the years, but because I understood that there is no animal on this planet that fears death. They don't fear death. To them, it's the most natural thing in the world. They know, like, what do I care about you? You be you, I be me, as they understand I'm being born here. I want to be a part of the collective, and I know for sure I will die, and I will enter heaven or what we believe in on my own, and it's fine if it makes sense. And we will see it one animal after the other. They will seek into nature when they know it's time. But because we have domesticated them and we keep them indoor, it is difficult for them to seek outside in the backyard or go into the forest to wait for a werewolf or a tiger to make the end of their lives. And on the other side, there are different realms, but one of them is the one we call heaven. And what I have understood as for now is heaven is something our consciousness makes, and that is part of a huge collective. And back in the days, people have told us that animals have their mutual spirit heaven and human beings have their human heaven. And that's not true. It's part of the same heaven as I have seen it, because I think this is a story that was being told for us as human beings to believe that we are worth more than animals are, to be honest, to value ourselves more as a species. But on the other side, we have a life going on there, and we have learning possibilities as well. And we remember time disappears. There is no linear time on the other side. And when the animals come to understand themselves, their personality, their karmic lessons, and their potential for the next life, 150 years have passed down here.
Gosh.
So it is a very, very rare thing that I observe animals have the time enough to enter the same owner again in a different body. So sorry, guys out there, guys and girls.
Wow. Maybe if there's like a strong soul connection between them, maybe there's like exceptions with that.
A few exceptions, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey y'all, I'm here with Melissa Kupsch from Remedy Academy of Homeopathy. We are so stoked here at the Way Forward to be partnering with Melissa and Remedy in order to spread the message of homeopathy across the world, and also to partner on the eventual development of healing centers across the United States.
People are pretty quickly coming to realize that frequency is the future of medicine. We are witnessing the great resurgence of homeopathy right now. We're really moving away from that suppressive medical model, whether it's for eczema, asthma, hormones, fertility, anxiety, depression, trauma, whatever it is, it all starts as energy in the person's field first. If we change our field, we can completely change our life. Our 2-year academy is open worldwide to anyone who wants to become a homeopath. We've got 5 lecturers and we currently have over 500 students enrolled, which is record numbers in our field. A career in homeopathy is amazing for anyone who wants flexibility in their work and who wants to be valuable in creating this new world. We have stay-at-home parents enrolled. We have ex-medical professionals, grandparents signed up who want to learn how to heal their grandchildren and pass on that invaluable knowledge. We even have husband and wife teams. So my husband enrolled in the course with no prior knowledge of health as a background, and he is loving it.
Kylie is also enrolled as well, so my partner is, and she's so stoked to become a homeopath and to be helping to spread this message across the world.
The thing that we hear from so many of our students is, I found my thing. Homeopathy is the key. We harness frequencies from nature and we alter the field of all creations. So if anybody wants to join us or they want to know more about it, they can visit our website.
Yeah, and all that information will be in the show notes. So if you want to learn more about Remedy Academy, also Remedy Collective, also some of the homeopathic products that they have, please just head to the show notes. All of that will be listed there.
You know, it's so interesting you brought up that it's a realm that we collectively create. And I've thought about this so much because when you look at, for example, the placebo effect, nocebo effect, mass psychogenic illness, mass social contagion, the Maharishi effect, there's and even like the consciousness of water, how water will literally change its physical orientation based on what it's exposed to. It's pretty clear that human beings have a strong capacity not only to impact their own biology with belief, thought, and feeling alone, but the nature of this experience itself. And like where it always leads me is to this question. I'd just love to hear your thoughts on this. Is our co-creative capacity so strong collectively that, let's say there was a thought experiment where 1 billion people truly believed, like actually in their being, and were expressing it outward through their field, that the sky was red, that the sky would indeed turn red? Or is there a distinct program within this reality? And I don't mean like in a computer simulated sense. I mean like there's an omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, omnibenevolent creator or creative force, God, the one mind, source, whatever you want to call it, that has set forth, hey, here is the program for this realm, and you have a co-creative spectrum within it. Which one is it? Or is it somewhere in between? Because like when you talk about heaven being a realm that we have collectively created, because I've thought that when it comes to, for example, let's say like devout Catholics, right? Who carry a lot of shame in their lives and believe that hell is a genuine place of eternal suffering versus an atheist who believe that nothing happens to them when they die. I asked this to Dr. Bruce Grayson, who's done a lot of work studying people who have had near-death experiences. And he says there seems to be an indication that your belief, your like deeply held belief about something actually has a temporal aspect on your experience of the past life. If I remember correctly, he didn't say exactly how long that would occur, but your belief in this lifetime has an impact on your experience of the afterlife. So when you talk about heaven being like a place that we have co-created together, is there still a distinct realm that was set forth by this creative force or by God? Or is it like purely a creation of our collective belief? You see what I'm asking? I hope that was articulated well enough.
I think that was many questions, but I think no. It is so interesting.
You see, like this is why when you answer a question, my brain goes like so many different places. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to keep up here. The first thing, some people think we're just part of the matrix, right? So did we create heaven or the skies as blue? Or could it be red? And I think if the majority of people believed it was red, it might as well turn red eventually. Because how can we explain manifestations? What is a manifestation? That is thought-based, right? We send our thoughts out to the universe or whatever we believe in and our emotions. We even write it down. We put it on a collage. We're doing a lot of effort to attract things. So I'm pretty sure that if the vast majority believed heaven is red now, but it needed to be like 99% of us, I turned red. Actually, what was the other question?
Well, the other question was like, even within that question is like, is there a spectrum of co-creative capacity that human beings have within a container where there is objective, quote unquote, laws set forth by a creator like God?
I don't know if there is a God. I was brought up very religious, but I don't know if we could call it God, to be honest. I'd rather say something bigger than me or the universe. I'm pretty sure there is a law here. Like we have the law, the gravity here on this planet. We have the law of attraction, so there must be laws, not like jail time or right, this is wrong. And I do understand that so far that the law is everything is circularly, nothing is linear, which means if we produce stuff, I would rather say when we know this about our magnetic field, if we want the change, if we want the law, air quote, to change and the sky might become red, we need to focus differently on our magnetic field and our thoughts for years and years and years, being able to, air quote, manifest that.
Yeah.
Does this make sense? That's the law. The law isn't it if it's red or blue. The law is how does this work?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get what you mean there.
A magnetic field. What is the law of the magnetic field and the universe? That it comes back. You would meet one woman after the other that met wife beaters. You would meet the one after the other that would attract the narcissist, the stupid boss, et cetera, et cetera. Why is this happening? And people are suffering and are feeling air quote, victimized by poor me. I get the opportunity of meeting all these, I'm sorry, my French, assholes, instead of looking inside that you attracted, honey. You attracted. And that is very, very provocative to tell people that are in a very vulnerable situation, it is your fault. But I'm not talking about fault or guilt. I'm talking about having the freedom, not responsibility necessarily, but the freedom to do something differently.
Well said. Yeah, it's a real tough one when it's like someone has been legitimately victimized to say that, hey, they're, especially when they're in it, and there is a part of them for some time, I'll speak to my own experience. There's a part of me in various times in my life, I had a rough upbringing where I needed to feel like a victim in order to get out of that victimhood. I needed to fully feel like, no, I was a victim and I'm really pissed off about having been a victim. And then on the back end of that experience, I can reflect on like how, like, why did my soul attract that into this experience? And even if I can't find a reason that I attracted it into this experience, with, in my case, I have, like, I realized why it was for me. I can at least use it as a catalyst to better myself and ensure that that doesn't happen again.
And that's exactly why I will believe the dolphin dude when he does something about it.
I really don't know what to think about that whole thing. I just thought it was so funny. And given that I'm talking with you, a telepathic communicator with animals, I had to bring that up. I have one more question. So, and again, for anyone who has questions, please join us for the member Q&A. I can't wait for that because I know there's going to be some incredible ones. So I've come to the conclusion that, you know, when we're talking about telepathy, we're talking about distinct fields interacting with each other, communicating through the ether, for lack of a better term, right? Would you agree with that?
I think it's more than just ether, because for me, the ether body is basically a station that brings down the frequencies around us so that our physical bodies can capture it and understand the extent of informations buzzing around us. But I don't know what your terms are. What do you mean by ether?
Ether, I mean the information field, like the field that exists and exists between and permeates all things. Like that's what I mean by the ether. And I understand we have an ether body, emotional body, et cetera, an etheric body. But with that, in our modern world, we have constructed so much noise that is emitting so many fields that I think at some level is inhibiting our ability to instantly connect with that one field, right? And at the same time, though, with all of our modern creations around us, so many more people are learning about these untapped abilities that we have. So it's like this weird paradox that we're listening to the telepathy tapes, for example, across the world using these modern devices that at one level have caused an interference with our abilities to do it. But then we're also learning, oh, we do have these abilities because of these modern devices. And it seems to be that more and more people are coming online with these abilities now relative to past decades. And maybe I'm incorrect there, but that seems to be a true assessment given, you know, other people I've talked to. And so my question is it like, do you agree that we've, in our modern world, created a lot of noise that has inhibited our abilities to connect? And then the second part is, at the same time, are we connecting more deeply with ourselves because we're adapting to this modern environment that we've created and still able to cultivate these abilities despite this modern technology that we've created that is sort of interfering with that ability? Do you get what I'm asking there?
I think. Here comes the Alec brain.
Oh, it's
again.
so bad.
Brain. I think that the human species and the humankind are here to be inspired to become better human people or human beings. We want to evolve. We want to progress. We want to develop. And all these devices are part of, in this new century, is just part of how we become inspired. But we need to balance it. When the ego takes over and we tend to over-exaggerate things, regardless if it's sugar, can sugar be good? Yes. You know, can some medical treatments be good? Yes, but it can also become an addiction. So it's, you know, I think we as the humankind needs to balance ourselves. And that's the potential of the personal development all the time, to balance ourselves. I don't believe in a future with no devices at all, even though it seems very attractive to many people, including myself, for now, because it has been so extreme. because we forgot about the other part, which was nature, being mindful, being in the now, et cetera, et cetera. But I still think that these quote devices gives us the opportunity of you and I sitting here and inspire other people for a good conversation in the future or where they live.
Yeah. So it's more about balance, right? It's like understanding that these devices are here. They're not going to go away. There is a beneficial use for them. Of course, like that's why we're able to have this conversation, which is incredible. I wouldn't have this podcast, but then at the same time, it can become so out of balance in the modern world where we're forgetting this other aspect, this more fundamental aspect of who we are and how to connect with that, how to actually actualize these abilities that we're talking about is by connecting deeply with the natural world.
Yeah, and definitely to think thoroughly about who can control me. Can AI control me? I don't drink alcohol, but can alcohol take over me or my cell phone control me, et cetera, et cetera? So we need to be more self-controlled, and that requires balance.
Yeah. Amen. Well said.
Thank you.
Sorry for my Alec brain going everywhere.
I love your Alec brain.
Thank you. I get these like complex thoughts and I try to articulate them as best I can, but oh man. Okay. Ditte, thank you so much for being here with me. This was awesome. I cannot wait for the Q&A. I know that my members are going to have some really, really incredible questions to ask you. So thank you for being willing to do that too. And thank you I already know in the future, you're going to come out for Confluence. You're going to love it. And thank you for, agreeing to that at some point in the future.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for so many interesting questions.
You're welcome.